In Russia, rescuers find 6 Belarusian tourists who climbed Mount Elbrus. Authorities say the group was located after 36 hours. More details on this later in the news. Good evening. I am Nina Richie Elago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Now for the headlines. Philippines and European Union resume bilateral FTA. Super Typhoon Mawar to enter PAR by midnight or Saturday. South Korea successfully launches its Nuri rocket. Passenger opens the cabin door during mid-flight in South Korea. And Rincon de la Vieja volcano erupts in Costa Rica. Senator Christopher Bongo urges the government to adopt stricter and more robust initiatives to address the issues of illegal drugs and criminality in the country. The lawmaker notes that strong-arm tactics and measures are necessary to continue building a safer republic. The senator claims that eliminating illegal drugs and criminality requires varied approaches bound to both law enforcement and social reform. He adds that the efforts of former President Rodrigo Duterte may come to waste if not continued. Senator Go recently proposed the former president's appointment as the country's drug czar during the Senate Committee on Public Order and Dangerous Drugs hearing last Tuesday. The Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP, says there are 14 projects which aim to upgrade the bases under the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, or EDCA. Bernadette Manuel for the details.
Armed Forces of the Philippines spokesman Colonel Medel Aguilar says under the AFP modernization program, the Camilo Ocias Naval Base in Santa Ana, Cagayan, Camp Melchor de la Cruz in Gamu, Isabela, Balabac Island in Palawan, and Lalo Airport in Cagayan will receive upgrades. The upgrade includes the addition of major facilities and the construction of a 3-kilometer runway in Balabac Island, which is funded under the TICAS program, a partnership between the Department of National Defense and the Department of Public Works and Highways. The runway will be used by both civilian and military aircrafts and is expected to be completed in March 2024. The total cost would amount to around $3.1 million. The United States vowed $82 million for infrastructure investments under the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, or EDCA. Last April, during his state visit to Washington, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. established the bilateral defense guidelines between the two countries. Bernadette Manuel reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR, has signed a Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, with Shell Philippines Corporation on the advancement of nature-based solutions, or NBS. The MOU was signed by Environment Secretary Maria Antonia Yulo Loizaga and Shell Philippines President and CEO Lorelai Kiambao Ocial. According to Shell Philippines, NBS will delve with initiatives concerning the protection and enhancement of natural ecosystems. This includes those in forests, grasslands, wetlands, and coastal zones. NBS could cover projects that improve agricultural sustainability and to help absorb or prevent the release of greenhouse gases, benefiting local communities and enhancing the biodiversity of the area. The Department of Budget and Management, or DBM, assures the public that the government is ready for the disbursement of 18.3 billion peso calamity fund. DBM Secretary Amena Pangandaman says the fund includes another 1.5 billion pesos or peso carryover from last year's budget that can be used for various disaster relief operations. The Secretary notes that identified government agencies may use their Quick Response Fund, or QRF, allocated in their respective budgets, as DBM is ready to support. QRF is a built-in budgetary allocation or standby fund for agencies to quickly assist areas stricken by calamities and crises. Meanwhile, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. assures that government agencies will continue to keep close tabs on the impact of Super Typhoon Mawar. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. pushes the resumption of the free trade agreement between the Philippines and European Union. Eren Santos for the report.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. greenlights the strengthening of Philippine-European Union relations through bilateral trade agreements during the ASEAN-European Business Council Gala. According to the President, a bilateral FTA will be a win-win strategy for both the Philippines and the EU.
A bilateral FTA will be a win-win strategy for both the Philippines and the EU. It promises to achieve mutually beneficial economic goals, while maintaining consistency with the EU's core ideals of sustainable development and environment protection, as well as with EU's Indo-Pacific strategy.
Marcos notes that there is so much growth in terms of expanding the roles of the EU in ASEAN, especially in the country. Among the proposed chapters of the bilateral FTA are trade in goods, rules of origin, customs and trade facilitation, trade in services and investment. Department of Trade and Industry says the exploratory scoping meetings between the Philippines and EU is started in 2013. In 2016, the FTA negotiations commenced, with the recent negotiations conducted in Cebu City in 2017. Eden Santos reporting for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. honors the men and women of the Philippine Navy as it celebrates its 150th or 25th anniversary. J.D. Mahinay for the details.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., as the country's commander-in-chief, joins the fleet of the Philippine Navy at its headquarters in Ross Boulevard this morning. The President praised the Filipinos who endeavored to serve in the Philippine Navy as it reached its 125th anniversary of defending the Republic's sovereignty and keeping peace.
As we celebrate the Philippine Navy's 125th anniversary, we pay tribute to the institution and the men and women behind it, both uniformed and civilian. For they have continued the noble cause of defending the public sovereignty and keeping the peace.
During the event, 2 vessels were commissioned, namely BRP Domingo de Luana and BRP Guenero Tinangag. The 2 gunboats will be sent to the West Philippine Sea to boost the country's maritime patrol operations. According to the President, this marks a significant step toward the completion of the Armed Forces of the Philippines Modernization Program. Exactly last week, President Marcos observed the Navy's anti-air warfare test fire off the coast of San Antonio, Zambales. J.D. Mahinay reporting for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
According to Bagasa, the southwesterly wind flow will continue to affect the western sections of southern Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Isolated rain showers or thunderstorms may prevail in Metro Manila and the rest of the country due to the southwesterly wind flow. Flash floods and landslides may also occur. Meanwhile, Pagasa said Super Typhoon Mawar was last seen 1,725 kilometers east of central Luzon at 3 in the afternoon. The storm was moving in the northwest direction at 25 kilometers per hour. Mawar is packing a maximum sustained winds of 215 kilometers per hour near the center, with gustiness of up to 265 kilometers per hour. Mawar is expected to enter the Philippine area of responsibility this evening or Saturday morning and will be given the local name Betty. Coming up, Russia deploys tactical nuclear weapons into Belarus. South Korea and the U.S. stage live fire drills near the North Korean border. And Romanian teachers go on strike for better conditions. Stay tuned for more stories around the globe when Matanang Agila International returns.
Sama-sama tayong nakikanta, nakipagsaya at nakipag-summer blast. Maraming salamat sa higit na 120,000 na taong nakasama namin. Walang kapantayang energy at init ng suporta na ipinaramdam ninyong lahat sa amin. Hindi rin matatawaran ang galing ng mga performers na nagpasiklab sa isa sa pinakamasasayang gabi dito sa Philippine Sports Stadium. Taos-puso ang pasasalamat namin. Let's always net together, mga Kanet 25, sa susunod na Summer Blast. Catch the special TV airing on June 10 and June 11, 2023. Follow our social media pages for more updates.
Kasayaw ka pala dito, ah.
Pwede bang wag mo naman siyang bastusin? Teacher ko sa PE to eh.
Ano, Mr. Tiso?
Tutuloy po.
Gulay po.
Ba't gulay ka na kaya mo?
Not healthy to dad eh.
Kumain ka naman nito!
Ayoko po niyan.
Ay, hindi! Tama na ng gulay mo! Ito kainin mo!
Title ng ating game ay Rock the Tissue Roll.
We now welcome you back to Matanang Agila International. A pipeline failure in the South American country of Colombia has left 6 million people without access to natural gas. Pipeline officials blame what they call a thermal anomaly for the problem. DJ Evangelista has the details.
A Colombia pipeline shut down because of an underground fire in the area near a volcano. Crews are removing hot rocks and soil near the line. Experts figure it will take about a week before service can be restored. 2/3 of Colombia's 50 million people depend on natural gas for cooking and other uses. Some people have switched to cooking with firewood. Others stood in long lines waiting to buy electric stoves. The shutdown has also left several natural gas-powered public service vehicles parked because they can't get fuel. DJ Evangelista from Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, and on point.
State leaders gathered with President Vladimir Putin in Russia for Eurasia Summit. The goal of the meeting is to lay out plans for new financial mechanisms and better trade relations. From Moscow, Russia, RT correspondent Marina Kosareva reports.
Everyone who thinks or acts otherwise brings damage to the world economy. They're shooting themselves in the foot and in the feet of those who have to obey their dictates. And by doing so, they also increase negative trends, hampering their own progress. This is what international experts are writing about, including those from the United States. By pursuing such an economic policy, they strengthen the downward trend of their economic development, again shooting their own foot. Well, that is their choice.
It's all about building on the mechanisms to achieve a fully functional multipolar world here. So discussions really are centering around that and how to improve transport and logistics in greater Eurasia, monetary and also financial mechanisms, how to settle in new forms of settlements in mutual trade and how to build and expand on that. Now, thousands are taking part in this two-day forum, which brings together government agencies, organized international organizations, media from over 50 countries, and they will be discussing just that, how to achieve multipolarity. We've already heard from the heads of most member states and even from China. Now, all this on the backdrop now as Russia's prime minister is currently in Beijing, where, as we know, he signed a number of agreements and has said that bilateral ties between Russia and China are now at an unprecedented high. And this is a sentiment echoed here as well via a video message that was sent by the Chinese president, where he solidified his commitment and the partnership between China and the Eurasian Economic Union. Let's take a listen.
Under the framework of the state visit to Russia in March, President Putin and I sealed new agreements on connecting the Belt and Road Initiative with the Eurasian Economic Union. The Chinese side is sincerely interested in the deepening and specializing of this field. We are ready to join efforts and strengthen interaction in the interests of new prospects for cooperation on the Eurasian continent.
This will entirely transform the international economic playing field. And Vladimir Putin did stress that there is a need, and we're seeing that from various partners, and that in fact the majority of players in the global arena agree with Russia that there is a need for a more fair, more balanced architecture of economic relations. Let's take a listen.
There are fundamental changes in the international financial system, and Russia is able to adapt, but also to become one of the leaders of this process. We are aiming to reduce the share of unfriendly states' currencies in mutual payments even more. We tend to work more actively with Eurasian Union partners to reach a complete transition to national currencies. This also takes place in other rapidly emerging economies around the globe, including China, India, Latin America. And it is important to coordinate joint efforts to establish a new, decentralized global financial system. This decentralization depends on the resilience of all global finances. The more decentralized it is, the more advantageous it will be for the global economy, because it will rely less on crises in the countries which benefit from a global reserve currency. It will make the economy more depoliticized.
So while the West is focused on trying to curtail cooperation with Russia and trying to convince other countries from not doing business with Russia, it's not going to plan. And Russia is in fact building on existing partnerships and developing new ones successfully.
At least 2 people have been killed and 23 injured when a Russian missile hit a medical clinic in the eastern Ukrainian city of Dnipro. A 69-year-old man was killed as he was passing by, while 23 others were injured, including 2 boys aged 3 and 6. 21 Ukrainian civilians remain under constant medical supervision, with 3 in serious condition. Another civilian was injured in the overnight attack in Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. 3 houses were set on fire, while a car and a gas station were damaged. Russia launched 17 missiles and 31 flying bombs on Ukraine the past night, while Ukrainian air defense shot down 10 missiles and 25 drones. Russia moved ahead with its plan to deploy tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus. This event marks Kremlin's first deployment of such bombs outside Russia since the 1991 fall of the Soviet Union.
Началось перемещение ядерных боеприпасов.
Уже началось.
Уже началось?
Оно уже в Беларуси.
Возможно, я приеду, посмотрю.
President Vladimir Putin has repeatedly stated that Russia has more nuclear weapons than any other country. Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko said that the weapons were moved in accordance with an order signed by his Russian counterpart. Belarus shares borders with 3 NATO members, Poland, Lithuania, and Latvia, but Russia will remain in control of the weapons.
О том, что он меня проинформировал, что он сегодня подписал указ о действиях наших по размещению ядерного оружия в Беларуси. То есть речь шла о документе конкретно.
Wagner's pullout from the city of Bakhmut has begun after a 9-month campaign. Yevgeny Prigozhin, the head of the Russian private military contractor Wagner Group, has declared that his forces have started pulling out of Bakhmut. This means that they have effectively handed over control of the city to the Russian military. The Wagner boss said his troops would now rest in camps, repair equipment, and await further orders. Moscow's deputy defense minister said that regular Russian troops had replaced Wagner units in the suburbs, but Wagner fighters still remain inside the city until Moscow has established a foothold.
Но если военным будет трудно, безусловно, мы оставим тех, кто имел основную роль в захвате Бахмута. Все думают, каким образом.
Prigozhin has also expressed his willingness to leave some of his integral troops within the city in case the Russian military needs assistance. However, other critics attribute these comments to Prigozhin's long-running feud with the defense ministry, signifying a vote of no confidence.
И долек. Вот это Бибер, вот это долек. Поэтому, как только военным будет трудно, то они встанут и преградят путь украинской армии.
South Korea successfully launches its Nuri rocket and placed working satellites into orbit. The spacecraft was launched from the Naro Space Center, leaving a huge trail of white smoke. This achievement marked Seoul's key step forward to the country's space program. The rocket's length is about 47 meters and weighs 200 tons. South Korea has laid ambitious plans for outer space. This includes landing a spacecraft on the moon by 2032 and Mars by 2045. The three-stage Nuri rocket has been in development for a decade at a cost of 2 trillion won. South Korea and the United States have begun massive live-fire drills near North Korean borders. The exercises are expected to last until the middle of June. Rosel Feria reports.
The U.S. and South Korea allies say this year's exercises are the biggest of their kind. Since they began in 1977, the drills have been held 11 times. Military hardware involved in this year's drills include advanced stealth fighter jets, attack helicopters, tanks, and several rocket launch systems. It's not known how many troops will take part. Previous exercises in 2017 drew about 2,000 soldiers and 250 weapons assets. North Korea is calling the exercises a targeted war rehearsal. It says the U.S. and South Korea will face unspecified consequences. Rosel Feria for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Stuart Rhodes, the founder of the Oath Keepers, has been convicted of sedition, conspiracy to commit sedition, and other crimes in relation to the January 6 U.S. Capitol riots. Standing at 25 years, this sentence is the longest given to a Capitol rioter to date. Meanwhile, the leader of the Militias Florida chapter, Kelly Meggs, was sentenced to 12 years. Rhodes remained outside the Capitol, away from the Capitol building itself, but coordinated with Meggs and other leaders who stormed the building. Rhodes showed little to no remorse during the hearing, claiming that the trial was an example of political persecution, insisting that the Oath Keepers were merely exercising their First Amendment rights, far from being disruptive. Judge Amit Mehta rejected those claims and expressed concern about Rhodes' violent rhetoric, including a threat to hang former U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. The Oath Keepers, like the Proud Boys, were the armed members of the anti-government group present during the riots. The militia has become a staunch supporter of former President Donald Trump. The United Kingdom Nursing Register sees a record of international joiners. The same data shows about 10% of its international staff comes from red list countries. From London, England, Sarah Alcantara reports.
Britain employed a record number of international nurses last year to plug hospital staffing shortages. Data shows 10% of this health force comes from red list countries. The Philippines and India, two of the biggest international contributors to Britain's nursing workforce, are not on the red list. The World Health Organization, or WHO, said red list countries are places where health staff should not be actively recruited. WHO has warned that poorer countries are increasingly losing healthcare workers to wealthier countries. It also raised concerns over active recruitment in some countries. Yet Britain frequently hires nurses from abroad to staff its state-run National Health Service, or NHS. The Nursing and Midwifery said nearly half of the 52,148 nurses, midwives, and nursing associates in British Register were internationally educated. Nearly 3,500 of the staff came from Nigeria, which is a red list country. Health experts say more nurses from red list countries, including Ghana and Nigeria, had gone up.
Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Low pay! Has to go! Fair pay! When do we want it? Now! How are we going to get it? Strike!
there is no available data to inform health officials how nurses from red list countries have come to be on the UK register. Current rules do not stop nurses based in these countries to apply for jobs in Britain. Some officials say community links to people already in Britain might mean people apply more from certain countries. Other nurses argue it is not against any international or national laws for them to tell a friend that there is a job in Britain. Over the recent months, Britain's health service has endured strike actions over pay, staffing shortages, high demand, and long waits for hospital needs. Health Minister Steve Barclay said lower numbers of EU staff, shortages, and lack of UK nurses in training meant further non-EU recruits are needed to fix their vacancies.
Reporting from London, United Kingdom, I am Sara Alcantara for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Thousands of Romanian teachers left their classrooms for picket lines to back demands for higher pay and better working conditions. It is the first time in 18 years teachers in the country have gone on strike. Valerie Gonzalez reports.
The walkout of teachers shut down most schools in Romania. About 10,000 teachers rallied in front of the government building in Bucharest. Like other workers in the country, teachers have been trying to make ends meet while struggling with inflation that hovers around 10%. For teachers, it has been particularly hard. They make only about half of what the average worker does. A starting teacher makes only 480 euros a month. That's about 29,000 pesos. The government says it has to reform salary legislation for the public sector. But critics say that will take several months. Leila Agbalog for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Up next, Japanese killing spree leaves 4 dead. One of Rwanda's most wanted suspects has been arrested. And in Costa Rica, the Rincon de la Vieja volcano erupts. Please don't go away. We've got more stories around the globe when Mata ng Agila International returns.
Business is traversing Electric Avenue as we discuss the potential of electric vehicles or EVs in the country. How favorable is it for consumers and MSMEs to use EVs beyond being exempted from number coding or getting favorable tax cuts? We'll talk about the nitty-gritty of going electric with Mr. Dennis Nang, CEO and founder of Mober, a pioneer in delivery and logistics service using EVs.
We consolidate the deliveries, we make the delivery cheaper. At the same time, the consumer will enjoy a same-day delivery.
Open for business with Cesar Vallejos, Sunday, 9 p.m.
Hi guys! My name is Empoy Marquez. Buti nandito ka. Kasi strict parents ko, gusto niya ako mapunta ng States. Break na tayo. Focus muna ako sa work. Sorry, Jennifer. At iniimbitahan ko po kayo manood ng Oh No, It's Biro Only with Tito Joey De Leon sa Net25 every Saturday, 8 p.m.
Oh no, it's Biro Only sa Net25.
This portion is brought to you by Robic Builders, Quezon City Motor Vehicle Inspection Center.
In Russia, 6 Belarusian tourists were rescued after climbing Mount Elbrus. The search started as a group of tourists went radio silent. The tourists were found after 36 hours at an altitude of 3,800 meters. The Ministry of Emergency Situations of Russia says the tourists are in stable condition. The search involved more than 80 people, 24 vehicles, and an Mi-8 helicopter. The group was not registered with the proper authorities, which complicated the search. Thursday's developments led to some anxious moments after a Hong Kong registered ship was grounded. Tugboats managed to free the ship and send it on its way. Arlene Ocampo tells us more.
Traffic in the canal ground to a halt for about 6 hours while crews worked to free the Hong Kong registered vessel. The Suez is one of the busiest waterways in the world. Canal authorities did not want a repeat of an incident 2 years ago. In 2021, a container ship became lodged in the canal and shut down the route for nearly a week. The Taiwan-registered Ever Given remained lodged in the waterway for 6 days, disrupting global shipping. Arlene Ocampo from Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Peruvian authorities have made a huge cocaine seizure. Police in northern Peru discovered the drugs in a seaport. Tristan Diaz reports.
Peruvian police found 58 kilos of the contraband in a shipping container located at the main port in northern Peru. The drugs had been wrapped in packages covered with Nazi symbols and had Adolf Hitler's name engraved on them. Police don't know why the package displayed Nazi symbols. Estimated street value of the drug is $6.8 million, or more than 381 million pesos. Large drug seizures are common in Peru. The South American country is the second largest producer of cocaine after Colombia. Tristan Diaz for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
In South Korea, an airplane passenger opened the door of an Asiana Airlines flight 700 feet in the air. Minutes before the plane landed in the city of Daegu, a man in his 30s who was sitting beside an emergency seat opened the aircraft 240 kilometers south of Seoul. According to the Daegu Fire Department, 12 people suffered minor injuries from hyperventilation. 9 passengers, all teenagers, were sent to the nearest local medical facilities. Asiana Airlines said all 194 passengers survived the mid-air mishap. Aviation expert Jeffrey Thomas described the incident as very bizarre, stating that it was technically impossible to open those doors in flight. South Korea's Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport had dispatched an aviation safety supervisor to check whether there was an abnormality in aircraft maintenance. In a rare instance of violence in Japan, 3 people died during a shooting and stabbing attack. The victims are a woman and 2 police officers. A 4th victim has succumbed to injuries. Jeff Sanidad reports.
The trouble began Thursday afternoon on a farm near the city of Nakano in Japan. Local media reports that a woman fell while being chased by a man who then stabbed her with a knife. He then shot at 2 police officers who arrived on the scene. First responders took the 3 victims to hospital where they died. Following the attack, the suspect holed up inside a building. Police later arrested him. The suspect is believed to be a farmer in his 30s. No details about the motive are known. Attacks such as these are rare in Japan, which has some of the toughest gun laws in the world, and only a few gun-related crimes annually. Jeff Sanidad for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Police have arrested a man after his car crashed into the gates of Downing Street in London, England, the official residence of the UK Prime Minister. The incident is not being treated as terror-related. Pearl Rogacion has more.
London police say the man who crashed a car into the gates of Downing Street faces criminal damage and dangerous driving charges. No injuries have been reported. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak had been at the residence at the time of the crash. He left soon thereafter. Video footage showed a silver car driving at low speed where many government ministries are located. It then appeared to have mounted a footpath and came to a stop after hitting the large metal gates that guard the entrance to Downing Street. As well as police sniffer dogs and the bomb squad responded to the incident. Pearl Rogacion for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
One of the most wanted suspects in Rwanda's genocide has been arrested after 22 years. The International Residual Mechanism for Criminal Tribunals said Fulhens Kayishema was arrested at a winemaking region in Cape Town. South African police said that Kayishema had assumed a false identity and gone by the name Donatien Nibashumba. He was captured in a joint operation by the tribunal's fugitive tracking team and South African authorities. His arrest followed an investigation that had tracked him across several African countries since his indictment in 2001. Kayishema was a police officer suspected of killing more than 2,000 people at a church nearly 3 decades ago. Canada's Federal and National Police Service, more popularly known as the Mounties, is celebrating its 150th anniversary. Chantel Santos reports.
One suicide will always be one too many, and it will take all of us working together to end veteran suicide. This is the call of Veteran Affairs Secretary Dennis McDonough as the VA announces it is working with over 1,000 community-based coalitions to support veterans at risk of suicide all across America. These coalitions reach more than 7.5 million veterans nationwide. Combined with clinical intervention strategies, the VA says these coalitions help reduce the risk of suicide by providing veterans with tailored resources and direct support in the communities where they work and live. Data reveals that veteran suicides decreased from 2019 to 2020, and fewer veterans died by suicide in 2020 than in any year since 2006. If you're a veteran in crisis or concerned about one, contact the Veterans Crisis Line to receive 24/7 confidential support. To reach responders, dial 988, then press 1 or chat online at veteranscrisisline.net/chat or text 838-255. In Virginia Beach, Virginia, Bernadette Regini for Mata ng Agila. Trusted, connected, on point.
The United States Department of Veterans Affairs is partnering with over 1,000 local community coalitions to end veteran suicides. Bernadette Raguini tells us more.
The WHO Council on the Economics of Health for All puts forward a new narrative to reorient economies on delivering health for all across 4 interrelated themes: valuing and measuring what matters through new economic metrics, financing health for all as a long-term investment and not a short-term cost, advancing health innovation for the common good, and strengthening dynamic public sector capacity to achieve health for all. Launched in conjunction with the 76th World Health Assembly, the report provides a new framework built on these 4 pillars. The landmark report is called Health for All, Transforming Economies to Deliver What Matters. WHO Chief Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus says this is a roadmap for structuring economic activity in a way to reach the goal of seeing all people with access to essential health services faster with better results. In Washington, D.C., Rose Papa Angeles for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Thank you, Rose Papa Angeles. Sudden strong activity from the Rincon de la Vieja volcano in the northern province of Guanacaste was reported to national authorities. The volcanic cloud reached up to 7,500 meters in the air. Materials from the volcano's lagoon were expelled to the northern side of its cone and had reached several surrounding rivers. In the past, Costa Rica has experienced volcanic eruptions from other active volcanoes such as Arenal and Turrialba. These events have highlighted the importance of disaster preparedness and risk reduction. This is why it is essential for governments to develop effective evacuation plans to keep people safe.
A las 2:34 el volcán Rincón de la Vieja ha hecho una erupción potente. La pluma compuesta de vapor de agua y de material volcánico alcanzó una altura de 3.000 metros sobre el nivel del cráter. Generó un osladar en el flanco norte. Los lahares es una mezcla de lodo y de agua caliente que sale del lago cuando hay la erupción.
Coming right up, space tourism company Virgin Galactic resumes commercial space flights. The Boston Celtics wins Game 5 against the Miami Heat in East Finals showdown. And The Little Mermaid swims in theaters this weekend. Catch the latest in business, sports, and entertainment when Mata ng Agila International returns. Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. NVIDIA's artificial intelligence stock surged significantly, propelling its market capitalization by nearly $300 billion. The augment in stock figures occurred after NVIDIA boosted its production of AI chips to meet demands. NVIDIA stock soared as much as 28% at its highest level, which increased its stock market value by $200 billion to over $920 billion. This extends the Silicon Valley company's lead as the world's most valuable chip maker and Wall Street's fifth most valuable business. People seeking an out-of-this-world trip are in luck. Virgin Galactic has resumed space flights after a 2-year pause to make safety upgrades to its fleet. Thomas Likeness reports.
On Thursday, its test flight took off from Spaceport America, located in New Mexico. 4 company employees were aboard the aircraft. It flew at an altitude of 87 kilometers above sea level before it returned to Earth. Commercial flights are scheduled to begin in late June. Members of the Italian Air Force will be the first paying customers. Unlike other companies that use vertical launch rockets, Virgin Galactic uses a carrier aircraft that takes off from a runway. Once it reaches a high altitude, it drops a rocket-powered plane that soars into space at nearly 3 times the speed of sound before gliding back to Earth. The whole trip takes about 90 minutes. Passengers experience a few minutes of weightlessness in the spaceplane's cabin. Tickets these days are selling for about $450,000. That's more than 25 million pesos. Thomas I. Likeness for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
In the 2023 NBA playoffs, the Boston Celtics cruised past Miami Heat in Game 5 to keep their NBA title hopes alive. or alive. Boston made 16 three-pointers in a dominant victory over Miami, 110-97. Derek White led the team with 24 points. Marcus Smart added with 23 points, while Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown each made 21 points. For the second straight game, the Celtics avoided elimination, cutting the deficit 3-2. Game 6 will be in Miami on Sunday, where Boston tries to tie the series and force the winner takes all Game 7. Now that it's the weekend, you can relax with a trip to the movie theaters. Stephanie Mayo has her pick of what to watch.
The highly anticipated live-action reimagining of Disney's 1989 Oscar-winning animated musical The Little Mermaid has finally arrived in Philippine theaters. Directed by Oscar nominee Rob Marshall, The Little Mermaid follows the same plot as the original animated film, but with some minor tweaks. Ariel the Mermaid is played by Halle Bailey, King Triton is played by Oscar winner Javier Bardem, and the Sea Witch Ursula is delightfully played by the versatile Melissa McCarthy. And the dashing Prince Eric is played by Jonah Howard King. And while the movie does not beat the original animated, the 2023 live action is still worth your time, thanks to Bailey's powerful vocals and Prince Eric's fleshed out character, not to mention Ariel and Eric's more convincing love story compared to its cartoon counterpart. And of course, Alan Menken and Howard Ashman's incredible songs and music that we have all come to love are still featured in this remake, plus new renditions, including compositions from Lin-Manuel Miranda. It's the ideal family movie to catch this weekend. Stephanie Mayo for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Korean actor Lee Seung-gi just landed earlier in the Philippines and met with the Philippine press. This is the second time that Lee Seung-gi visited the Philippines this year. 2 months ago, he was spotted in Vigan, Ilocos Sur. The actor is planning to invest in the country, hinting that he will visit the Philippines more often. He will also see his Filipino fans during his stay in the country. Seung-gi also shared his insights on the Philippines and how he feels welcome every time he visits. Happy weekend. To send you off this Friday, we have a quote from Franz Kafka, Bohemian novelist and short story writer. Youth is happy because it has the capacity to see beauty. Anyone who keeps the ability to see beauty never grows old. And my hopes are that you'll spend the weekend seeing beauty, feeling beauty, and loving life. And that's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am Nina Rich Yalago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.